Hello and welcome to today's MEI webinar, How to Reduce Production Costs Using Sustainable Typesetting. An AI caption translation of this webinar is available by clicking on Show Captions at the bottom of your screen and choosing your preferred language. My name is Ramon Rocha. I'm the Director of Publisher Development at Media Associates International. MEI is a global network that exists to equip, encourage, and connect global Christian writers and editors and publishers as they create life-transforming materials in their heart language and local context. In collaboration with our community, we hope to see these publications strengthen the church and impact society. In today's one-hour webinar, you will learn practical cost-saving tools on the production side of book publishing. As you know, any cost-saving measures without sacrificing quality would certainly be helpful to global Christian writers seeking financial profitability. Our speaker today is Klaus Krogh, the CEO and founder of 2K Denmark, a globally acclaimed typographical design company specializing in Bible design, layout, and typeface development. Klaus, will you please briefly greet our audience from around the world?
Yes, for sure. Well, this is a great pleasure to take part in a meeting like this. I really admire organizations with a purpose like yours and with a community of Christian publishing houses. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm already looking forward to all your interesting questions.
Thank you. With over 50 years of experience in the industry, Klaus has accumulated extensive knowledge of book production, publishing, and design while acknowledging the constant need for innovation to keep the industry progressing. We had 74 participants from 33 countries registered for today's webinar. We'd like to welcome our first-time attenders. If you're a first-time attender, can you please click on the raise hand button? If you are a first-time, Vasil, welcome. Click on the raise hand. Welcome, Vasil. All right. I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A panels throughout today's webinar. So please remember to put your comments in the chat and your questions in the Q&A. So we have a Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. Put your questions there. Even as you hear Klaus do his presentation, you have a question, put your question there. We will have a Q&A time, about 20 minutes of the 1-hour webinar. Okay, so Klaus, we're looking forward to hearing your presentation. Can you please start your presentation?
Yes. So I hope that my screen has been shared now. I hear nothing but, so thank you very much for the invitation. You know what? I think if you ask publishing houses now, you will hear that it's very difficult to become profitable as a publishing house. But you know what? I think that's always been the struggle we have. we have a greater appetite in wanting to publish books than necessary. We have the economy to invest. But there are measures, even in today's market, where you have a lot of where you have a lot of challenges to find ways to make your just a minute. We have a little problem with sharing the screen. We're working on it. Just bear with us just a second. Presentation. She's clear, but
just a second.
Yes, start from the beginning.
Okay. Yes. So thank you very much. I'm sorry about the delay. I hope everybody can see the screen now. And I'll try to catch up where I left off. The pain in publishing, and we'll talk about the possible solutions as well. This is the purpose and a conclusion. So let's start on the different pains in publishing. Obviously, the profitability on publishing books is under threat. Why? Because prices of production are rising so fast that it can't be accumulated in your prices of your selling prices, and that's a great threat to your margins. Also, at the same time, you will see that there's a huge demand on higher readability. Over the last 10 years, people have begun to react, wanting bigger and bigger typefaces, and there's no good explanation for it. We might discuss it afterwards, but maybe the use of iPads and others where you can decide your own type size when reading has something to do with it. And the last part is that there is a demand on a sustainability in publishing. So not only for the customers, and that's probably a growing demand, but within legislation in different countries, especially in Europe, you would have a lot of legislation that guides you into becoming more sustainable. And as in many cases, nothing is for free. So usually the sustainability effort comes with a price. Well, we might have another solution for this, but let's take it step by step. So if you look at production costs, you would see that if you do nothing, then your margins will be under threat, and it's only begun. If you look at the price index from the US, for instance, on paper prices, well, so prices has been rising since 2002, and nobody thinks that it's going to return to any prices in that neighborhood anymore. So be prepared for even more expensive paper. Also, the energy cost, everybody knows that sort of since COVID, the jump in energy prices didn't stop there. It didn't return to a level as before COVID. It's still rising, and that of course also influence a lot on your total production costs. The labor costs, and this is for the US, all these figures are for the US. I'm sure that it looks quite similar all over the world, that there is demand also because of the inflation. And then there's an obvious demand for higher wages, and that again influences on your production costs. And transportation costs. If you see that this is probably the one rising the most and the most dramatically. And not everybody knows that this already is an impact of sustainability, because in very many transportation costs, there is now also a payment for the CO2 emission that the transportation is costing the world. So that adds to the general price rise of transportation costs. Well, adding all that up together, you might, and we've been through a lot of annual reports of big publishing houses, and you see that actually their sales are up. They have a bigger turnover, but their margins are going down anyway. And that is because you cannot have the rise in production cost leveraged by the rise of book prices, because there's a limit to the pricing. I'll come back to this because it's not only a thing that I suggest. It's actually a thing we've asked your readers, or at least readers in bookstores around the world. So how do they feel about not only the price, but a lot of things? Why do they buy a book, and why do they return it again? And that doesn't seem to suggest that there's a possibility of an increase in prices. So you have to find your margins elsewhere. I talked a bit about readability. It's a strange thing. But I work together with Cambridge University, trying to define trends in readability. We also work on inclusive reading, but that's a completely other thing. But we discuss a lot sort of this apparent need for a bigger and bigger typeface, and that's all age groups. It's not very young people haven't learned to read yet and needing a bigger typeface. It's not only people that have the same color of hair as I have, but it's all over the board that the demand for bigger typefaces are there. So, as I said, we asked the customers, why do you pick a book? So imagine yourself in a bookstore, and why do the customer pick out a book and keep it and pay for it? Well, recommendations and reviews. So that's nothing to do with the appearance of the book. The author, obvious. You want to buy a book from an author well known that you liked before. The title and description, which is strangely high. So take care when you give your book titles. They actually sell books to a concern, and then prices. 21% say, well, I bought this book because the price was reasonable. Cover designs, sorry about that. And font size, well, this is why they choose to buy the book. So the font size was inadequate for what you wanted. And then the small ones being a hardback, being a paperback, and the font style. So that's not an issue at all. Publishing houses claiming that they have a special font, they have a house style that their readers recognize, is probably not the case. But at least not with these 300 customers we asked for. This is more or less what you might expect, maybe. But why do they put it back? Why do they pick up a book and say, well, maybe not? And 65% pick up the book and say, well, no, it's too expensive. I wouldn't get my money's worth in reading this. And that's kind of strange because reading a book, everybody knows, the experience is obviously something you can only judge when you read the book. But I think it's sort of compared with other goods and services. Prices has books has the price level, but you can't increase it very much. The second thing, the font being too small. So the price and the font size is the two major reasons why people don't buy the book they intended to or they were looking at. Bad design, well, thank you very much. And the book is too short, less than 150 pages. This obviously is a calculation between the price and the size of the book. But still 18% is not very much compared to the other percentages of the other things. The book being a paperback, the book being is too long, so you have the same thing, almost way up the other one. And well, yeah, if you could buy it instead of borrow it instead of buying it, obviously that's a good idea. In another questionnaire to readers, where we asked 607 people, we asked about this type exercise, and this is for Bibles, but I think it's general for literature as a whole. Asked, what do you want? Most people, 72, almost 73% says, well, I want a large print, 50% a medium print, and even before a small print, the giant print is 21%, and the small print is only 8.4%. So for sure, there's a general tendency for your readers to expect or even demand a better readability on the books you publish. But then again, that's why it's hard to be a publisher, isn't it? Your audience wants cheaper books with a bigger print size. So that's more expensive books at the same time. And how to meet those two conflicting challenges. But yeah, by the way, this is a funny one. So actually, if you look at people that would like a thin Bible, and that's the Burgundy, they're also the same people that wants a bigger typeface, and so generally your readers probably want everything at the same time and not pay for anything. So it's difficult to accommodate all their wishes at the same time. Another thing that's nice to know is that the general typeface style. So for a Bible or for books in general, you might think that the serif typefaces or the classic typeface would be preferred, and it is. But still, 1 out of 4 actually prefers a sans serif. Well, I'd ask you just to think, who wants the sans serif and who wants the serif? Well, most people would think that your traditional audience, so your older audience, would like a serif, and the young people would want a sans serif, being more modern and so. But that's totally not the case. It's actually direct opposite. The people that prefer a sans serif typeface is actually the oldest age group, but it's almost 50-50. This only goes to show that this also is a part of what you have to consider. And I don't think it's down to aesthetics and being a sans serif. I think it's down to the simple fact that most sans serif for typefaces are easier to read than the serif typefaces. And they might also be a touch more economical, so you might save a few pages by using it. So that's something to consider, maybe especially if you have books that refers to the oldest age group of your readers. It's not all bad, though. If you look at customers, 65% still prefer a printed book. And the very good news for us book lovers will be that in this survey, 70% of the young people, the 14 to 24-year-old, actually prefers the printed book. That's also a bit surprising because they have grown up with a completely digital alternative to books. And if that's the case, well, the book has some value that it's well worth fighting for. 21 prefer ebooks and 14% audiobooks, which is a little strange because if you see, for instance, the sales figures from the US, you'll find that their ebooks and audiobooks gross almost the same amount, but still, an ebook is preferred. No immediate explanation for this one. So the sustainability, we are looking at pains in publishing. And with the sustainability, obviously, when new legislation is there, you have an administrative burden to find out what are the new legislation, how does this affect my business, how do I have to report my actions, and so on and so forth. And that's expensive in an administrative system. Also, a lot of hidden CO2 emission cost is already there, and there will only be more. So that's adding to the raising production prices, the expectations from your reader to have bigger typefaces, that is to say, more expensive books. And then adding the sustainability effort, it really can make publishing look almost impossible. It isn't. Here's only a few of the different. The EUDR has been discussed a lot in the US, especially, but also in Europe. It's been postponed a year, but it really is a high administrative burden on the publishing houses if you don't find a model to work together with your vendors. They're the ones with the information, so they should be the ones also supplying this to the different bodies validating these figures. Countermeasures. Now let's see what we can do about it, because this wasn't sort of the brightest of beginnings. I'm sure of that. I hope there's still somebody still listening. Because you can do something, you probably already did standardize your trim sizes and working from templates and so on. You probably also try to look into the best sourcing of paper and other materials to create a low emission and to keep your costs down properly, and by all means buying locally to get in close contact with your vendors, to collaborate with your supply chain to see what action can be taken to keep prices down, to keep CO2 emissions down, to make a viable publishing business in what you do. But what are the low-hanging fruits? Well, the low-hanging fruits is for instance, your if you can look at your design phase, because it is actually in your design phase you're capable of determining the success of your book. If you have a book of original 500 pages, you can lower the DMS on your paper. So a lighter paperweight will actually save you some money, but that's limited to saving money in your paper buying, and the same printing costs, same binding costs, and so on and so forth. You could also save 20% by using sustainable typesetting. I'll come back to that. That's where you lower the number of pages you print, or you could do both and then save up to 40% of your paper costs, which is a lot more than 60% of your total cost of a production of a book. So it's well worth looking at. Yeah, I promise to come back to sustainable typing. What is sustainable typing? Well, it's the impossible task of saving 20% of your CO2 emissions and at the same time saving 20% of your production costs while you add 20% in enhanced readability. All these three things at the same time. And I'll explain you how that is done. Obviously, 95% of your CO2 emission is scope 3. So that's your vendors out there buying paper, printing, binding, your transportations, and so on. That's 95% of your emissions. Well, there's a lot of tendencies to try to keep your CO2 emission low. So a lot of people like to not claim the CO2 emission in scope 3. My advice is claim as much as ever possible, because that's the only way you can turn into tomorrow's heroes. If you claim your scope 3 emission and their scope 3 emission happily, you can and then try to measure it. You'll have a very good figure and a very high figure to start working on reducing your CO2 emissions. And it's so much more impressive if you, as a publishing house, work together with your vendors and try to achieve this. Yes. And obviously, if you can save 20% of your total production costs, and that's what we're talking about. When you look at the 20% saved, it's not only in paper. If you cut down 20% of your page count, you would save on forestry, paper production, but also on printing and binding and warehouse and packaging and transport and retail. So it's your complete production line. You will save a 20% cut on your pricing. So this is right down to your bottom line. Yes, a reduction of 20% is obviously an increased markup on your books. But also, if you use it right, it's also an increased brand and marketing value of your books. If you remember to tell your readers that the cause of these slimmer books is that you are trying to achieve maybe even a CO2 neutral production, then you have a huge advantage, at least in the coming years, over your competitors if you emphasize that your publishing strategy includes CO2 awareness and the reduction of CO2 emissions. It makes sense, but it also makes sense in an economical way. This is some big figures. It's 200,000 books, but still, and if you have that, you would see that the staying on the exactly same and the development that you have today, you will see a decrease in your margins on single books and on your total production. And if you have an investing in, for instance, sustainable typesetting, you would see an increase in your margins. Readability. So this sounds too good to be true. I know that. But that's actually a solid promise. So we'll save 20% of your page count, thereby saving 20% of your CO2 emissions and saving 20% on your production costs. And we will enhance your readability by 20% at the same time. I'll show you. So 2K Denmark does 4 things. We are a type foundry, so we design typefaces. We're designers and typesetters, and we're concept developers. Going back to the type design business, Well, it's driven from at least 40 years of making Bibles and wanting to have as much readability on as few pages as possible. And a Bible, well, a Bible contains just as much as this complete series of Harry Potter books. And that's a one-to-one, 4.5 million letters. So it means a lot what you can do with these letters. And from that aspirations to do the most beautiful Bibles in the world, we started doing typeface design. Looking at this slide, you'll see a gray typeface, that's Garamond, and you have a white typeface to the right bottom, and that's a sustainable serif. These two are the same type size. So type size is not a measurement of readability. Well, in the design, we try to achieve as much efficiency in the way we designed it. So we don't have a lot of variation in line widths. We have distinguished serifs and so on to make it the typefaces as durable as possible. But using the typeface, we also are sure of the space efficiency and white space distribution. This one will show you exactly. These two columns occupy the same real estate. The first one is a Garamond, and there are very many Garamonds. It's very often used in a lot of countries and a lot of publishing houses, and you see the difference. And so the sustainable serif is about 40% bigger than the Garamond in type, utilizing the same space. We divide that into having a 20% bigger typeface and a 20% safe pages. That's what's in our equation on doing sustainable typesetting. You'll also see, for instance, that a 12-point Garamond, the black to the left, and doesn't really compare with the 12-point sustainable typesetting. To have the same readability, you need a 15.24 Garamond to match a 12-point sustainable serif. So that's where we create the readability. I have a few case stories to show you. One is that's a Nobel Prize winning author, Danish author. He made this too long book, and we decided to republish it using all the right choices in sustainability. You can eat the book after you've read it. Everything is so clean. But more important, the book, the thick book, is 5 pounds of CO2 emission. The other one is only 1. So you can, if you go to the extremes, and this is more an extreme, you can actually save a lot of CO2 emissions and economy, but keep the readability. And your customers would like the slimmer book. In this case, we've been out there asking people. 80% automatically say, well, obviously, if the same inside, well, like the purple book rather than the white one. And when told that we save this much CO2, that's 100% wanting the purple book. Yeah, you can obviously use what you save in any way you find fit. This is an example of a 23% savings. And that's what we saved in the first book. I have another case story, and that's about Island Press out of Washington, D.C. They've seen our solutions, and they've opted to not only use sustainable typesetting on all their books, they want to take the extra step and convert the publishing house to a sustainable publishing house. Now there's no manual here. You don't know exactly what to do, but we've decided to join our forces to first of all define what is a sustainable publishing house, and then define all the actions needed and the result wanted of the actions, and then publish that to everybody that wants to participate in this discussion. It's the way to go. It's the only way that we create real change. They have, as I said, this is an original from Island Press, and they have we've easily saved 20% of their page count and added at least another 20% in readability. And for case study 3, we have the digital emission. Well, it's not very well known, but if you make ebooks, they have just also a huge impact on your CO2. That's the storage, that's the font transmissions, and so on. It's the reading of the ebooks actually take up a lot of CO2 emissions as well. If we use the sustainable fonts that we've created, we can actually halve the amount of CO2 your ebooks cause. And we have even made a program, a calculator for your CO2 emissions on your ebooks called 2K DP If you're interested, please contact us. We're more than happy to tell you more about this. Conclusion. So, financial model shows that an investment in sustainability actually is a very good thing. And adaptation is necessary to continue the success. We can't leave it to chance. We can't leave it for a chance to make the book survive. And everybody need to work together to make this happen. And I think this is the time to pitch in with your good ideas and try to make them public, just like we try to make them public. The findings and the work we do in defining. And if you invest in sustainability, I'm sure that that's the best way to ensure that you have a business also 10 years from now. If you don't, you might see a more troubled time. Just finalizing HarperCollins, you've probably heard about, one of the biggest publishing houses in the world. They asked us to make a sustainable typeface. They saw the results, and we could easily say 25%, but being cautious. Magnus Olsson at Scandinavia, he said, well, I'm going to impose a 12% saving and see what happens. And what happens was that he didn't hear a thing. This is his original book. When he made a 12.5% saving in page counts, he sat there waiting for people to be very angry because he's changed the style of typography and the way of showing it. And he heard nothing but praise. Actually, he had people writing to him saying, what have you done? I can read these books better. So he's decided to go 25% saving, and I'm sure he'll hear nothing at all going forward. Yes, and with that, I will think I'll rest my case. I have a few more slides about readability and readability research, but I think it's much better to leave time now for the questions that's been asked. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Klaus. One big question would be, is this only applicable to Latin-based typefaces, letters? So what about, we have several participants coming from using a different typeface for their language. Yes.
Yes, by all means, and I know that. And excuse me, we come from this area of the world where we use the Latin typefaces. A lot of people does though, and I'm sure that we know enough to also guide people in the choice of non-Latin typefaces. Not so much Arabic, but even Korean or Chinese and so on. We've actually been asked to try to look at the Chinese simplified to see whether some of these typeface design ideas can be imposed there. It's a huge work, and it's probably not for us. But we would be extremely happy to draw from the 50 years of experience in designing typefaces, also to help out when it's non-Latin based alphabets.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. Yes, Vasil Papratilov of Bulgaria is asking, can you give examples for particular optimized fonts that can be found online or bought and are not custom made?
Yeah, well, so sustainable typesetting is a registered trademark, and it has some descriptions on using a typeface that can accommodate these 20% page saving and 20% higher readability. And there are good typefaces and there are bad typefaces out there. And alas, when I look around, there's a lot of Garamond being used. And even in the Adobe package and other places, you will find typefaces that are much more efficient and much more readable. I would so we will make a PDF of these slides, and we will send it so that everybody here and everybody registers to this webinar can get the type samples that are in here. I would suggest that you have a good look at them and see whether you would find something similar out there. And if you can't do that, obviously you're welcome to contact us. Sustainabletypesetting.com or 2kdenmark.com. There's a formula, and you're welcome to with any questions after this. If this inspires you to go looking for typefaces that are better than the ones you use today, I can only encourage that. And there are typefaces, but I couldn't now just mention a few. I think it's obvious that sustainable typesetting, if it helps people being more aware of the choices they make in choosing typefaces, that's also very valuable, and I'm happy for people to do so. More explicit help, contact us.
Yes. You in your presentation, you even mentioned just the basic comparing Garamond and sans serif.
Yes.
Just for those two. Yeah.
It's because Garamond or similar typefaces are the most used in Western Europe and the US. You would see, go to a bookstore. I mean, 80% of the books you pull down from the shelves are typeset with the Garamond or something similar. So it's not out of the blue. It's actually what's used the most.
It's used the most.
Yeah.
Oh. So publishers should really be going back and looking at what they have been using and what they have been, and see and find ways to save the number of pages of their books.
I hope, if nothing else, this could be an inspiration exactly to do so. The most important tool you've got is your eyes.
Your eyes.
Look at it. I mean,
at it.
Look at it again and ask your designer or typesetter to say, well, I don't want one sample of this internal design of my new book. I want 10 different ones, and pick the most readable one.
Yes. Rick Kress is asking for a very small publisher that cannot afford to buy many fonts. Are there, free font choices, as we have already mentioned. And
Yes.
thank you, Andreas, for answering also.
That's one thing. We have 3 different models to work together with 2K Denmark to get sustainable typesetting. We have the first one, sort of the entry level, is a book by book. And obviously, we ask money to do our typesetting. But since we typeset 20% less pages, there's room for trying out a sustainable book by having a typeset by 2K Denmark, and you could use the logo and everything and try it out. So you can see how your market reacts. And it would be, of course, be prudent if you found a book that on 400, 500, 600 pages, it rather would want 20% lower page count. Obviously, you're going to save money by doing it. And you can test out whether my claim on the higher readability is correct. So you can find that on sustainable.typesetting.com. There are the 3 economical models, and you can just do one book. I mean, we'll be happy to help you out so you can try out whether this is something that would work in your market.
Thank you for that. Olympio Philip from Romania. Thank you for sending in your question, Olympio. So he's actually saying, what can we do? Can you recommend a family of fonts, a catalog with prices? We need to typeset in Romanian language, the NIV Study Bible, a very large project.
Yeah, well, luckily we have a Romanian employed in our company, and we know the NIV very well. So 2K Denmark does typeface design. We made the NIV comfort print typeface and all the comfort typefaces that HarperCollins Christian uses. So we know the NIV very well. But it's important to know that the sustainable typesetting is not only a type design. It's a type design. It's a typographical use of white space in the internal typography, and it's how you use your margins. And I see a lot of stuff, a lot of books that could be enhanced quite a lot. So for the Romanian that wants to typeset NIV, obviously I can see that there's a demand for a template maybe, and a suggestion of typeface. And we could deliver that, and the typesetting could be done in Romania or whatever place locally. We needn't sell the full package, although Bible typesetting is our main work. But we would be happy. So you are so welcome to contact us, and we will give you our best advice.
Thank you for that. Okay, other questions? Have we answered the questions? Yeah, please, if you have any question to Klaus, please type your questions on the Q&A. You can also do that in the chat.
Yes. If there's no immediate questions, I might just steal the screen again.
Okay.
And just a second. And show you this. So I don't know whether you see the typographical design slide.
Yeah, so we see both.
Okay, then it's just so it's all about the spacing, and this is only 3 lines. So the most important thing when you do typographical spacing is to look at each and every letter. Each and every letter has a white inner form, and it's that white inner form that decides the spacing of each and every letter. So you define your spacing to create beautiful words that are much easier to read. Now, words are a combination of letters, obviously, But on a line, you have several words, and of course you have to manage your your word spacing as well. So your word spacing is a consequence on how you space your internal spacing of the letters. When you've done that, you have your obvious your leading, your line spacing, and that line spacing again is a consequence of the two first choices you've made. If you do that right, you create a completely new way of looking at your spacing. And this is, we all have lazy brains. I have extremely lazy brain, especially when I read. The reading demands the more quiet you can create your reading. So we created something called cloud reading, where every word you read words, you don't spell out words, you read full words. And by reading full words and placing these words in the same white space cloud, now I know it's blue, this one, but so that the white space around each word is the same, creates a much easier reading experience for you. And if you do this right, you can also create a bigger typeface within the same real estate by utilizing these typographical spacings. And so in any kind of reading, you would have these beautiful words that are amazing, being capable of keeping whatever is complicated or important or even holy through space and time. And about the sort of the sustainable typesetting, if you want to use it, it's a registered trademark on the same level as FSC. You can go to the BIC list of trademarks on sustainability. We are the first one there. So if you opt to work with us, you can use this logo on your books that uses sustainable typesetting. Also, there's, as I said, 3 ways to work together with us. The one option is book by book. So you just want to try it. You just want to try out what could sustainable typesetting do for me. Well, you're welcome to with your manuscript, and we can give you a typesetting, and you can produce the book. 20% less pages, so it can easily argue for the possible more expensive typesetting. Or you can license a certified sustainable font from us. You can also go look for a font that can do the same thing for you. With the experience of the book by book thing, you're more than welcome to do so. Or as the big customers does, they buy a typeface proprietary, just like HarperCollins did with the HE Arc that I showed you, and then get templates for their different books to execute so they know exactly what they want to do. Some comments on these ideas of templates say, well, doesn't it take away all the creativity for the book designers if the typeface of the book is standardized? And the answer is no, because it doesn't. You still have the headings and your paginations and your subheadings and everything to create a special, beautiful book that you want to think that is appropriate for the content. So you still have all these possibilities. It's only so the standardization to be able to create the saving of 20% of your page count and the 20% higher readability. So if anything of my analysis on the pains of publishing are right, this is an answer.
Actually, you're answering Rick Kress's question on you have a pricing for your company, offer book by book.
Yes.
And then the second option would be
buying templates and
templates, and then
and licensing font, or pick your own font. If you license a font, obviously you have the ability of using the logo and the branding and so on and so forth. Picking your own font, you still have some of the gains, but you don't have the full package, but you're more than welcome to do so.
Mhm. All right. Thank you. I mean, 20% of the page count, 20% savings is big.
It's big. It's big. And
Big.
in other industries, if you can make a 3% saving in your CO2 emission, it usually costs you billions to do so. Now, this is a combination where you save 20% of your CO2 emission and save 20% of your complete production line costs at the same time. So it's well worth considering. And if you do that and then keep your publishing house alive and your readers satisfied, well, it's not a small thing even then.
Well, on that note, again, maybe that will really make usher us into our final words of encouragement. Klaus, please, as
Yeah.
you have discussed about the pains of publishing and offered some solutions, can you please give our global audience your final words of encouragement?
Well, yes, so it's been a pleasure um, being a part of your group for an hour here. Know that even though publishing sometimes is a pain, it's very, very much appreciated. Without a Christian publishing, it would be very hard to see that the churches is established in new places, or even that in old places where you need more attendees to the church as well, you need to spread the word, and that's exactly what you're doing. So if nobody else, I will use this opportunity to thank you for all your publishing work and for what that does to the kingdom. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Klaus. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This webinar has been recorded, and we will send you the link to the recording within today, and also a copy of Klaus's presentation, a PDF copy of Klaus's presentation. We will also send that to you. The next MEI webinar will be on January 14th, entitled Successful Digital Marketing and Distribution, Reaching Readers Directly and Through Bookstores, to be led by Gregor Spreliors of Poland. Look out for our invitations, our MailChimp announcements, and you can register. Actually, you can register already through our website. So I also remind you that we have a library of past webinars. We have about how many years of webinars, and you can go through and browse through the topics on our website. Go visit our website, meiglobal.org. So we have to say goodbye for now, and thank you so much. Thank you again, Klaus. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And MEI is wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Goodbye for now. And God bless everyone.